ISIS is a jihadi military terrorist organization comprised mostly of Sunni Arabs from Iraq and Syria. They are infamously known for their brutal beheadings, executions, and mass murder. Before ISIS, Al-Qaeda was the terrorist group to fear in the Middle East. Osama bin Laden created ISIS in 1988. There was not much technology available to Osama in the 80s and the 90s. He then had to set up an interview with a Western reporter who then distributed the interview to the media to spread his propaganda. Al-Qaeda is most known for its horrific attacks on 9/11. These attacks paved the way for ISIS. According to Al-Qaeda, ISIS was too brutal and extreme in their actions and thinking, and this led to the split between the two terrorist organizations. The story of ISIS's propaganda started in 2012. In 2012, American journalist James Foley was kidnapped at gunpoint by ISIS. He wasn't heard from again until 2014. Throughout those 2 years, it's assumed that he was brutally tortured. In 2014, ISIS began making demands for ransom. They wanted $132 million for James Foley's release. The United States, as we all know, does not negotiate with terrorists, so they refused. So, ISIS, on August 19th, 2014, released a video on YouTube and Twitter depicting the brutal death of James Foley. In the video, in the first half, James Foley gives a speech, presumably written by ISIS. In this speech, he says that America is his real killer. The day President Obama signed to authorize airstrikes against ISIS was the day they signed his death certificate, according to ISIS. The second half of the video has the man in black, who the media called Jihadi John, give a speech about how our airstrikes are hurting Muslims' way of life. He demands that President Obama stop the airstrikes or there will be more bloodshed of American people. The video concludes with Jihadi John beginning to behead James Foley. It cuts out, which makes analysts think that the actual beheading took place later. It was authorized, James Foley was beheaded by ISIS. And then the video cuts back in, showing the body of James Foley. When the video was supposedly over, it cuts back in a few seconds later, showing Jihadi John holding a second American. His name is Steven Sotloff, another American journalist. ISIS says if President Obama does not stop the airstrikes like he previously said, then he will execute Steven Sotloff. Now, President Obama did not stop the airstrikes. He couldn't. And that caused ISIS to brutally execute, again, another American journalist, Steven Sotloff. Now, that was the big turning point for ISIS propaganda. After this point, it just went downhill. ISIS began taking over young children's schools in the Middle East. They started brainwashing the children, teaching them how to shoot guns, how to kill, how to blow themselves up as suicide bombers. The most brutal things you could possibly think is what ISIS started to teach these kids. Now, this is still ongoing right now. On November 11th of 2016, ISIS released this video showing two kids who appear to be around the ages 10 to 12 execute two prisoners using a knife. Now, it is up to the Trump administration to stop ISIS. President-elect Trump said that he will close down mosques, he will surveillance mosques all in the United States, and the way that he is going to stop ISIS is, direct quote, "I will bomb the shit out of them." This is very relevant to us today because all of this is taking place right now. All of this is our future, and it's a scary one. We don't know how Donald Trump is going to deal with ISIS. We don't know how ISIS is going to react to Donald Trump. It's all a big mystery right now, and that's what makes it so scary. That's how ISIS uses pathos. Terrorism feeds on fear, and fear is a very good tool to get people to do what they want. So ISIS is in Donald Trump's hands.